How's it going, everybody? This is Catfish on Ice. Welcome in. This is Chad Minton with Rich Howe and Kyle Perkins as we're watching the Stanley Cup Playoffs continue to unfold. Guys, how are you doing?
Good. Watching the the old Bruins went to overtime tonight, so that's getting ready to start.
How did I know that you would even waste 5 seconds without bringing up your Boston Bruins?
Hey man, it's good.
Oh my
it's good
gosh!
Stuff.
I know what I'm buying you.
Things.
Rich, when is your birthday, dude? Because I am buying you like so much Bruins swag for you to wear on this podcast.
I'd rather have Pred swag actually, if it's all the same.
Right. But. Fair enough. Fair enough. Kyle, how are you doing, man? Kyle doesn't have a backup team. Do you have a backup team? And we don't know about it.
Not really.
Really?
I mean, I'm kind of pulling for the Kraken just because.
Oh.
Just
I was
because.
Don't say that word.
Dude, I was going to release.
I'm not saying the word. I'm not saying the word. But there's reasons.
There are reasons. Yeah.
I was going to mention this later in the episode, and you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say it now because Kyle, I guess great minds think alike. We can leave Rich off to the side with his Bruins loving self. But you know what? Myself and Kyle, release the Kraken.
That would be amazing.
Let's do it.
Won.
Yeah.
Release the Kraken. I'm not going to call it my backup team like Rich's team with the Bruins. Like he has loved the Bruins for a while. He's been very vocal about that on this podcast. I don't really have a backup NHL team either like I do in other sports. But when it comes to these playoffs, release the Kraken, baby. That's what I'm all for right now.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they've played really well. They don't have Colorado, no Cale Makar tonight, so
that was a messed up hit. We can talk about that a little bit. These playoffs, guys, have really opened up Pandora's box in a way. I know it's quote unquote hard hitting playoff hockey. It's playoff hockey. You got to let it go. I get all that, but
it's been rough.
It has been some really questionable on the fence type of hits in these playoffs, most notably in the Stars Wild series. That's soap ridiculous. Opera right there.
Yeah. The referees, whoever's in charge of the referees, they need to look at that because there's been some really, really bad calls for sure. That Nick Foligno one was ridiculous. The one.
Which one?
The one last night where they said he tripped. I can't remember who he tripped, but they just collided and they called him for tripping is ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it just devolves from there because it's vigilante justice and
vigilante justice. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Here's my thing. We're going to dive more into this. It's going to be our opening face-off, so I don't want to get too much into it. First of all, everyone, welcome in. Thank you for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, we appreciate you so much. Hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the comments here if you're watching live right now. And if you're downloading the next day, we appreciate you just as much. All right, so it's episode 182 of Catfish on Ice presented by DraftKings, part of the Hockey Podcast Network. And with our promo code THPN, you can get on some DraftKings offers. We're going to tell you about a DraftKings Stanley Cup Playoffs offer that we have for you right now with our promo code THPN. So stay tuned for that. We'll tell you more about that offer for some new users for DraftKings Sportsbook. This is a playoff-themed episode. Obviously, the Predators are not in the playoffs. If you've been living in a cave, maybe you didn't. You guys know who Aaron Rodgers is, right? Aaron Rodgers. He did darkness. Aaron Rodgers did his darkness retreat, right? Which I have total respect for that. That's so guess what? Guess what? There might be some Predators fans out there who are just coming out of their darkness retreats right now.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe the first 5 minutes coming out of their darkness retreats, they're uploading Catfish and Ice podcast right now live on YouTube. And they just found out, Kyle and Rich, that the Predators did not make the playoffs. Well, guess what? Darkness Retreaters, they missed.
They didn't make it.
I'm so sorry to tell you that.
They were close. They came close.
Close. All right. So we are going to
not make it.
View all of our thoughts on the Stanley Cup playoffs right now going on. We're going to run it back. Let's see if the Predators, we're going to really have a good roundtable discussion on, do we think the Predators can run it back in 2023-24 and make it back in the playoffs? Do we think that this is going to be a short one-year thing, they missed the playoffs, or do we think it's going to be a longer situation? Predators fans, including myself, I include myself in this, we have become spoiled. We always think that the playoffs are a given. And guess what? There are a lot of franchises and a lot of fan bases in this league that will tell you the playoffs are not a given.
Nope.
So what are we in store for? We're going to talk about that. Well, let's see if we think the Predators can return to the Stanley Cup playoffs in 2024. We're going to go back in history, look at some of the most memorable moments in Nashville Predators playoff history, give you some facts. I'm a history nerd. I love history. Love looking back at stuff like that. So I've been doing some digging today, picked out some of the most memorable moments that I have in Nashville Predators history. We'll share some of those images on the screen from those memorable moments. And then also we're going to look ahead to the offseason and think, are there some free agents out there that the Preds can shop for, or do we think that they're just not going to buy it all and they're just going to stand pat with what they have going into the next season? A lot of people seem to think that that's what they're going to do.
If they wait till next year, they can get Austin Matthews.
He's going to Arizona.
Oh. All right. There you have it.
Can you imagine that?
All right, guys.
Oh, just the utter chaos.
I mean, it would be insane. Anyway, I got us off track.
It would be insane.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if they can wait one more year, right? There's a lot to really unpack. But, guys, there's a lot to unpack this offseason. But before we do that, before we get to all that, let's really talk about what's going on right now in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think it's been a really exciting first round. Each series there hasn't been a sweep, which talks about the parity of this league. That's always good to see. Haven't seen any sweeps yet. It's probably good the Predators were in the playoffs this year because they got swept last year, so that's good to know.
Yeah, that might have happened if they made it in.
No, I don't think they would have gotten swept. Let's not.
I don't know. Hopefully not. Hopefully they wouldn't. But
all right, so I'm going to ask you guys this. Let's break out this opening face-off segment about what's going on in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We'll start with Rich because, Rich, you missed last episode, so we are so happy that you're back.
Thank you.
So you get to start us off here. Get the ball rolling for episode 182, Mr. Rich. Which team has surprised you the most in the first round of these Stanley Cup playoffs here?
Definitely the Maple Leafs.
Oh, I did not see that coming, actually.
Oh, yeah. I think so. Yeah. Like, Tampa is just they're Tampa Bay. I mean, they're champions. They're amazing. They play well. They're rough. They're hard to play against. I really didn't think Toronto would be able to do what they've done so far. I know it's not over, but man, stealing 2 games from the jaws of victory, or whatever, however that phrase goes, from Tampa, it's been a great series, and it's really fun to watch. Actually, I've been sick, and I started watching the last game, and Maple Leafs were down 4-1, and I was like, I'm going to bed. It's over. And I just happened to turn it back on and saw that they tied the game, and then watched the rest of it, and they won in overtime. It was amazing. So that's been fun to watch for sure.
I know how fun it's been for you as a well-noted Tampa Bay Lightning hater. And then, of course, I live down here in Bolts territory, so it's like weird. I got to tell you guys, that was a really hard night the other night around in these parts.
Oh, I bet.
Oh my gosh, you talking about the Lightning? They're up 4-1. They're up 4-1. To tie the series 2-2. And first of all, I got to tell you, everyone, Lightning fans are very realistic about the fact that this team is no longer a dynasty. I can't speak for every fan in the fan base, obviously, but I've come across past and made friends with a lot of Lightning fans down here.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that a lot of them are very worried and very realistic about the fact that they're no longer a dynasty. A berth in the Stanley Cup final this year is pretty far-fetched.
Mm-hmm.
This team has aged a lot. Andre Vasilevsky, for whatever reason, has not looked like the elite goaltender.
No, he looks shook.
Yes. Kyle, what are you thinking, man? What are you thinking about? Let's unpack one of the biggest series of the first round, and that is the Leafs and the Lightning. What are you seeing from this series?
Surprisingly violent.
Oh yeah,
I mean, that series, I wasn't expecting to see a lot of big hits or anything like that. But you have our old favorite Tanner Jeannot putting people on the bench and just.
Who was the guy he bloodied up? Who was the guy he bloodied up on the Leafs?
I don't even remember.
I don't either, but it was, yeah.
I think it was game 2, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But he was chirping at the Leafs bench.
Mm-hmm.
And it was it was the Braden Point hit.
Yes. Yeah.
Which was I don't think there was anything malicious necessarily about the hit. I've seen way worse hits than that. And I think it was more or less just who it happened to was why everyone got up in arms. When you take down a star player like that, that's how the National Hockey League works. When you take down one of our top guys, we are going to retaliate. Like let's put Tanner Jeannot back on the Predators for a second. If you take out a Philip Forsberg, if you take out a Roman Josi, Tanner Jeannot is going to be chirping at you, and he's probably going to drop the gloves with you on the next shift. So that's what he's doing for the Lightning right now. That's why the Lightning went and got him. A lot of the Lightning fans that I've made friends with already love him just like we loved him.
Oh, I bet.
That's the type of player he is. So that's really cool to see. The Lightning are up against the ropes right now. I mean, that's a backbreaker to lose that game when you're up 4-1. You're in cruise control. You're kind of dominating that game, to be quite honest. And you're looking at a 2-2 series, and then you just completely fall apart.
Yeah.
In that game, and let the Leafs come back.
Yeah, there was another amazing thing that happened that doesn't happen very often. Austin Matthews got in a fight.
Yeah.
First career fighting major.
Yeah. It was like, I've seen him push around and stuff, but I've never seen him get in an actual fight. And
I don't think Stamkos gave him much of an option.
Yeah.
He was just coming after him. He didn't care.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was crazy though.
Look, these two teams are definitely have become some of the biggest rivals in the Eastern Conference going back to the last year with the first round series. The Leafs fans, Leafs Nation, they're so hungry to finally get a first round series win, and it looks like they're finally going to get it. But I will say the curse could live on. Let's see what happens tomorrow night. Let's see if the Lightning, let's say if the Lightning can stretch the series out. I had the Lightning in my bracket challenge to win in 7. That's looking like a pretty bad prediction on my part, but we'll see. I mean, it's been a close series. Even though it's 3-1 Leafs, it's been a very close series. I think the X factor has been that Vasilevsky has not been nearly as dominant and as much of an X factor as I expected him to be. So that's kind of what's shifted the whole series for me.
Yeah, absolutely. You never know what's going to happen. Like tonight, I just watched Boston lose. So they lost in overtime. So.
Oh, that series is 3-2 now.
3-2 now.
You still fully expect Boston to win that series, but here's what you got to look at, guys. It's a battle of attrition when you're trying to win a Stanley Cup. And the quicker you can take care of your first round series, the better.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you got if you're a team like the Bruins, you got the Panthers. You got to play a game 6 against these guys. No disrespect to the Panthers. But now the mighty Bruins, who have set all these regular season historical records, you got to go to Game 6 in the first round.
Yep, those records
Probably
mean nothing.
Don't like that. You don't like that. You don't like that.
It was Linus Ullmark's fault. He had a bad pass and it got intercepted, and he was out of position. So it was all on Linus.
All right, guys. Guys, Kyle, I got to ask you about the Wild and the Stars, man. It's been my favorite series to watch. It's the one that's on the top of my radar, even more than Leafs and Bolts. It's Stars and Wild for me, partially because they are our division rivals, so it gives you more interest as a Predators fan. But also, you got the North Stars, Dallas Stars connection there. There is some deeply rooted
That's right.
hatred between these two fan bases.
Oh, yeah.
And I get to meet a lot of people. I work at a hotel down here in Florida, so I get to meet a lot of people. Met a guy over the weekend. He's rocking the sleeveless North Stars shirt.
Wow.
And so anytime I see a hockey fan, I just like pick their brain if the opportunity presents itself. So I asked the guy, I'm like, I'm loving the North Star shirt. I'm like, how are you feeling about this series? And I asked him, who are you pulling for? Did you follow the North Stars to Dallas and start cheering for the Dallas Stars? And every time I've ever asked a North Stars fan this, I don't think I've ever gotten a different answer. They always say, in very, very safe terms, because we're a family podcast, screw the Dallas Stars, Minnesota Wild all the way. I have not met one Minnesota North Stars fan who followed the North Stars to Dallas and became a Stars fan. They are so bitter about losing their team to Dallas. They are so bitter, and we are seeing these two fan bases clash in this first round series.
I get it. I totally get that. You backed a team for however many years they were there, and all of a sudden they pull up and go to Dallas. Yeah, I wouldn't like it either, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So that series has been back and forth quite a bit. And honestly, with the way things are looking right now, I think Minnesota pulls off their home game. I think they send it to 7 games. But just general dislike for everybody on both of these teams. They just it's for rough. Sure. It is. It has been rough playoff hockey. That is for certain.
I agree.
And it's one of those.
So we know the Minnesota Wild as being a very, very elite, if not one of the best defensive teams in the league. Here's the problem with the Minnesota Wild right now. Their superstars are not showing up on the offensive end. We kind of know how that feels as Predators fans.
Yeah.
They get this past game, they get shut out 4-0 by the Dallas Stars. This has been a very defensive-minded series, but in a weird way, because the Dallas Stars are not the old school Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars used to be considered that type of team. Very defensive-minded, poke check you, block you to death, great goaltending when they had Hudobin, when they had Ben Bishop for a little bit. But now they've got Jake Ottinger, who I have been beating the drum for a couple years.
I love that dude, man.
I'm not saying I'm the only one, but I've been saying this dude's got a Vezina trophy. He's in his future. I put him in the same class as UC Saros in that regard. So he showed out. He showed out this past game. But the Minnesota Wild, they got to start putting – they're kind of running into the same problems we know about the Predators. They're not putting shots on goal. In this past game, they had 25 shots, 27 shots on goal. They got too much offensive talent to be held to 27 shots on goal. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's just crazy watching those two teams go at it, because they are just like you said, the dislike is just growing and growing, and it's like it's good hockey. It's just good games to watch, for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
love it.
I mean, the focus is really on Kirill Kaprizov. You know, he is a superstar
Mhm.
in the making, right? If he's not already a superstar, the guy's he's got 1 point in 5 games in this series.
That's just insane when you think about it.
He's been held off the score sheet in the last 4 games of this series. He scored a goal in game 1.
So he's reverse Ryan Johansson.
This is a problem. This is a problem for Minnesota. So, Kyle, if your prediction comes true and the Wild are going to win Game 6, I'm sorry, they got to start getting some, because they're not an overly offensive team, but they've got some guys that got to start stepping up here for sure. Yep. So we'll have to wait and see. That's a great series. I had the Stars in 7, so it had 7 written all over it for me right when I saw the brackets revealed and I realized who was playing who in the first round. I'm like, these two teams are very closely niched to each other. So we will have to wait and see. That's one of the better series of the first round for sure. So that game is going to – let's see. They play tomorrow night on Thursday, or if you're listening today on the morning of the podcast release, they play tonight. Let's see. The Panthers beat the Bruins on this Wednesday evening to make the series 3-2.
Ridiculous.
Only 25 shots on goal in that game. The Bruins put out 47 shots and only
they were shooting. They were shooting for sure.
I thought Marchand had got it at the end of regulation.
Oh, I know. Yeah. He had a breakaway. That was amazing. I thought he was going to get it, but.
And then the game we got currently going on right now as we record this podcast, Game 5 between the Kraken and the Avalanche. The series is tied 2-2, and it is a 0-0 score with 3 minutes left in the first period. Release the Kraken, everybody. Let's do it.
Seattle's shooting.
Let's make it happen.
Seattle's jerseys are just so nice. I'm sorry.
And I really love the fact that Philip Grubauer is in net for Seattle, the former Avs goaltender that got ran out of town because he was pretty awful for them. He was very inconsistent, so I'm not really blaming Avs for running him off. But what a sports story that could be if somehow Philip Grubauer puts the Kraken on his back and knocks out the defending champs, the team that cast him away.
That would be amazing.
Those are the stories I sign up for right there as a sports fan.
Absolutely. Have you all watched? Oh, go ahead, Kyle, real quick.
They also have he who shall not be named.
They do have he who shall not be named.
Oh, you know what? Screw that. I'm naming it. Rich, you can just get over it.
It's going to start all over.
Ellie Tolvanen.
Start all over.
We got to make all of our people happy. I mean, I'm sure they want to hear it so bad. They need an Ellie Tolvanen update. Ellie Tolvanen has 2 points in this series, but he hasn't registered a point in the last 2 games.
Yep.
There you go. There you have it.
Ellie Tolvanen.
He was just on screen hitting a guy.
Yep.
I mean, I'm very happy for him. I'd much rather see Ellie Tolvanen be playing for the Kraken than a lot of other teams. So let's just live with it.
Yeah. Another series that I'm surprised is carrying on as long as it has is the Carolina Islanders game series.
Yeah.
I thought Carolina would just mop the ice up with those guys, but it's 3-2.
Well, this speaks to the whole adage we always say, the whole motto, it's the hardest trophy in sports to win.
They also don't have Svechnikov.
That's right. They don't.
But you look at a team like the Islanders. I call the Islanders Preds East because they play a very similar style. They lean on great goaltending in Sorokin. They don't give you a lot of offensive firepower. They snuck into the playoffs. They got to play the Hurricanes. We know how it feels to play the Hurricanes in the first round. Although that was the COVID year, but either way,
that's all right.
So they're down 3-2. That's my Stanley Cup pick is the Carolina Hurricanes. So I don't want to lose my Stanley Cup pick in the first round. But
it was
big props to the Islanders though, because they are doing really well.
It was funny in the last game. Both of the Sebastian Ahos were in the penalty box at the same time. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was funny.
And then somebody put on Twitter something like Sebastian Aho will be the first round winner in the series, which is pretty good. I mean,
that's best way to cover your bases right there.
That's right. Absolutely. But it's been pretty rough too. Carolina's Sebastian Aho got hit in the mouth with the puck the other night. He was all bloodied and stitched up, but came back out and played, so that was pretty good. But
who was it? Hyman off of Edmonton scored one off of his face last night.
Oh, did he?
Yep.
That's awesome. I haven't watched much of the West Coast stuff because it's on too late, man. I just can't.
Yeah.
Those games come on 9:30, man. It's too late.
It's pretty cool that no one has been eliminated yet. Like this deep into the first round. Like, I mean, like no one's going to be eliminated tonight. And then tomorrow night on the brink of elimination, you're going to have the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Winnipeg Jets. Both of those teams will be playing to stay alive. So those are the games you love to watch right there. Those are the games you love to watch because you have to win to stay alive. So tomorrow night, we got 2 of those games. Tampa Bay Lightning will be trying to extend their playoff run against the Maple Leafs, and the Winnipeg Jets will try to extend their playoff run against the Vegas Golden Knights. So they're down 3-1 there.
That Tampa game is going to be rough.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to be
We will see how it goes. We will see how it goes. All right, guys, let's move along here in episode 182 of Catfish on Ice, presented by DraftKings and part of the Hockey Podcast Network. This playoff-themed episode with looking into 2024 here and looking ahead. And let's focus this back on the Nashville Predators here, who could not extend their playoff streak this year, as we well know. They were looking for their 9th consecutive year of making the playoffs. They did not make it. A lot of fans are not upset about that because they did what they wanted them to do at the trade deadline.
For years.
So I think that they toyed with their emotions a little bit by hanging around the playoff race for as long as they did. I think that's what got everyone expected the Preds to just like fade out after the trade deadline, and especially when the injuries started piling up. We just expected, okay, it's time to wave the white flag. It's over. They did a great job. We love what the front office is doing. Barry Trotz is GM now. Let's look ahead to 2024. And then, lo and behold, these young guys, UC Saros and whatnot, they just kept pushing. They made it to game 80 before being eliminated. So, guys, do we think that this same type of effort can go into next season and then they will once again be on that playoff bubble? Let's go to Kyle first with this one.
I really do think they could, but it's more of a question of should they versus could they. And that's going to come down to one man's decisions, and that's Mr. Trotz and what he decides to do. Does he decide to go try to get back into the playoffs next year, or does he try to, collect some more draft picks or players or prospects or anything like that? If they don't go out and spend money to do it, I think it would be awesome if they made the playoffs next year. But if they go out and spend money to make the playoffs, I think it is an overall loss, honestly.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't want to see them get a good hot streak going and then push all in the trade deadline and try to make some kind of weird run that could possibly not work. And just, it just depends on what they're going to do this summer. Free agents, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but you want to get in there, but you don't want to rush things. So I don't know. I don't want any rash decisions, I guess. So we finally got the decisions of the team. We got a new general manager. Everybody wanted that forever. We may or may not have a new coach. So let's don't do anything crazy to ruin all that stuff. So
Well, I think the run that they made to close out this season come up 3 points short of tying the Winnipeg Jets in the standings. I know they didn't have the tiebreaker and all that, but that kind of makes these decisions for new GM Barry Trotz all the more difficult.
I agree.
I mean, I think he's probably pretty pleased with what he's being handed over in terms of draft picks, but wow, he's got to look at these young players that played so well. He doesn't have room for all of them. Me and Kyle talked about it in episode 181.
Yep.
He doesn't got room for everybody. And there's one that really sticks out. And Rich, you weren't in the episode for this segment, so you're here now, and we want to hear your thoughts on it, because I really feel like it's one of those situations where everyone's in the house enjoying the party, having drinks, sharing recipes, doing all these things, and then you got Ryan Johansson sitting out on the porch, and the door is locked, and he's trying to open the doorknob. He's like, "Hey guys, you left me outside. Can I come back in?" Am I wrong on that? What do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be another very tough decision if they decided to try to move him or whatever. Everybody loves Ryan Johansson, but this is a new era for the Nashville Predators. You got a new, like I said earlier, general manager, going to have a new owner. I think things are going to be a little different now that they were in the past. Winning is going to be at the forefront of every decision. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I would hate to see it happen, but I think it could.
Out of all of these younger players that played down the stretch in this lineup, a lot of them got playing time because of unforeseen injuries. It's not like the coaching staff, and this is a big criticism on John Hines here, that a lot of people give John Hines for this reason. It's not like he chose to play a lot of these players. Injuries forced him to play a lot of these players. So that's what makes it really, really difficult to figure out what is an opening night lineup going to look like in October of this coming up year. What is it going to look like? Like, what out of all these really well-performing younger players, which ones are going to have to probably start in Milwaukee? I mean, Tommy Novak's on this roster, hands down.
He better be.
He should have been last start of last season. I mean, that was a huge swing and a miss to not start him on the roster to begin with.
Yep.
So we'll go ahead and start with that. But I think of a player like Igor Afanasyev, who was on the fringe of making the roster. We saw the Behind the Glass series that was so well done. And I remember seeing him come to the office, and David Poyle said, "Oh, you're close." Like, basically he told him, "You're close. You're going to be here soon." Yeah. But the only reason Igor Afanasyev played NHL minutes this season was because there were a lot of injuries. He's the first younger player that I think of what's going to happen with Igor Afanasyev, who I thought looked pretty good. He didn't
look bad.
He didn't look bad. He was overshadowed a little bit by Luke Evangelista. But he's another one. Is he going to get what he wouldn't have played if everybody had been healthy, probably.
That's another one. That's another one. Luke Evangelista, though, who obviously just completely took off like a rocket. I mean, that dude was – I mean, his skating – I know he put up points. He scored some goals. I saw him live when I went to the game in Florida, right after the trade deadline. Or there was the first game before the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Or the last game before the trade deadline. I went down to Sunrise, Florida, and saw the Preds play. And it was one of Evangelista's first games in the NHL. And I saw it in person, how great this kid's skating is for this age. I mean, he's undersized. He's going to take a lot of hits. And, I mean, that's just part of the game. I mean, if he's strong and he can handle it, he'll be fine. He knows how to draw penalties. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So he has to use that to his advantage. just because he's undersized doesn't mean he can't have a place in this league to be a star. So that's another one, guys. Do we riot if Luke Evangelista is not on the opening roster?
I mean, God.
I know it's really hard. It's really hard.
Guys are going to get healthy. Philip Forsberg, he's going to be healthy. Ryan Johansson's going to be healthy. Matt Duchene went down late in the season, who I thought he was the one veteran. Well, Ryan Johansson and obviously Colton Sissons out of the forwards. We're just talking forwards here. Matt Duchene and Colton Sissons were the only two veterans left.
Yep.
Over those last 10, 15 games. And then Matt Duchene went down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you were like, how do we make it through this? But those guys are going to be healthy. You got your Kiefer Sherwood gets re-signed. Michael McCarron gets re-signed. So it's going to be weird to figure out how they construct this lineup. I don't think anybody really knows exactly.
No clue.
Not really. I wouldn't want to even hazard a guess.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be tough. It will be tough.
When we talk about can they compete for the playoffs next year and actually I don't think this is a full-on rebuild. I don't. And a big reason I feel that way is because I saw how they played down the stretch and they weren't full strength and they still went toe-to-toe with some really, really good teams and won some of those games. I'll even go back to the season finale against the Colorado Avalanche. They had nothing to play for but pride. Nothing to play for. And I cannot get over how hard that team played. And then Nathan McKinnon happened.
Yeah. Boy, did he. Yeah.
Nathan McThanos. He is in
yeah. Crazy.
It ended up, the season finale ended up being Nathan McKinnon 3 and the Predators 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Avalanche 3. It was Nathan McKinnon 3. So, I feel like they can. I don't think they're just going to be – they're definitely not going back to some dark times where they're going to be irrelevant and they're not going to make the playoffs for years on end. I do think the front office has to handle this offseason very, very carefully, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You're at a crossroads here. You can't screw it up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tough thing to ask for a first-year general manager in the NHL, which is what Barry Trotz is. But how perfect. It's almost like you couldn't write it better in a Hollywood script. Barry Trotz's first NHL job, head coaching job, was with the Nashville Predators. Now his first general manager job is with that same franchise.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It is cool. It's awesome. I do think the pressure will be on, though, with the new owner and everything coming in. I think it's going to be it's going to be way different than it was before. So people get attached to players, and we're like, oh, he's going to be there next year. Maybe, maybe not. I just think it's going to be – it feels like it's turning from a little bit more of a family thing to more of a business type thing. But that's kind of – unfortunately, that's what you have to do if you want to win that cup.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. All right. Before we move on to the next segment here, we're about to go back in time and look at some Preds history, Preds playoff history, and whatnot. Let's tell everyone about DraftKings. An awesome offer. We have a offer for all of our new users and hockey fans, and I know we got plenty of hockey fans on right now. Light the lamp during the hockey playoffs with DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can make a $5 bet and score $150 in bonus bets instantly. So right now, let's look at that Lightning and Leafs game right now. That is a very, very close series right now.
Oh, yeah.
We will pull up the odds on DraftKings. I didn't ask you, Rich. Do you think the Lightning are going to pull it together and force a Game 7?
It seems like they probably will. They're champs. I mean, you can't count them out. I think they're gonna get it together. And if they don't win the whole thing, then I think they'll at least put up a good fight. So
right now, DraftKings has the Tampa Bay Lightning as a 1.5 goal underdog. So they're favoring the Toronto Maple Leafs to win tomorrow night. You can jump on DraftKings Sportsbook and use our promo code THPN to bet on either team. Or you can pick any matchup you want. We've already talked about it earlier in the episode. Got some really good matchups coming up later this week. And with our promo code, you can have an awesome offer. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and sign up with code THPN. New customer can make a $5 hockey playoff bet and score $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's code THPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelpline.org. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino Resort, in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for offer details. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. All right, guys, so that's what you got right there. If you're not on DraftKings in the middle of the playoffs, we got our promo code THPN with instant bets that you can win.
Free money.
I like money.
Everybody likes money.
We all like money. We all like money. All right. We got the comments going here. Justin Gambino, our awesome friend. He says, yeah, I think Trotz mentioned Novak as earning a spot already at the meeting. Yeah, I would hope so.
For sure.
I would hope so.
Played like a madman.
And Mike Twitter's jumping in, our good friend. He says, Max Hertz just tweeted some cool pics and vids of hockey happenings at the Ford Ice Center today.
Well, that's cool.
Hockey is growing so much in Nashville. It's such a cool thing to see. I really wish that hockey would have been growing when I was coming up in that time frame because, wow, it's cool what they're doing at the Ford Ice Center. And so that's cool to see those picks up and whatnot. So I was just going
to say, I wish I lived in a hockey town.
Yeah. I wish I could drive a normal distance to go watch a game.
For sure. Not 2 hours.
Are you guys closer to Columbus or Nashville?
Rich is probably really. I think you might be closer to Columbus by just a little bit.
I don't know. I'm south of Louisville, so
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
I've
been to Columbus. It feels like it's a longer drive, but it might just be because I don't know. I'm just Nashville.
So I got to tell you guys. So I've got the whole bucket list thing. I want to go to every NHL arena and see the Preds play. And I just started this like 3 years ago, so I'm very early in this journey. But next year I plan on knocking out a couple other arenas or whatnot. But guys, I got to tell you, you're close to Columbus. I've been to – that's one of the arenas I have been to. That was actually the first arena when I started this that I went to. And I got to tell you, Nationwide Arena, I think that's the name of the arena. The Columbus Blue Jackets play.
I believe so.
It is a really underrated, nice arena.
Is it?
I've seen the outside of it.
It's right downtown. Columbus is nothing like Nashville in terms of tons to do and stuff, but it's a nice city. The fans are cool. Like I remember, I think I've told this story on the podcast, but I'll tell it again real quick. When I went to that game, I walk into this Irish pub style bar that's right by the entrance. I only had 45 minutes to kill. And I walk in wearing my gold Preds Pecorine jersey, and it's all dudes in business suits and Columbus Blue Jackets jerseys.
That's amazing.
It's a crowded bar. I'm like trying to work my way up to the bar just to like order a beer. And like, it's like, I thought like, oh my God, like this is bad. Like we're not even rivals here, but I feel like I'm getting the cold shoulder here. And then this guy walks up to me, buys me a drink and says, hey, don't take anything the wrong way. Everyone thought you were wearing Michigan Wolverines jersey because you're in Ohio State territory.
Oh, that's funny.
The Ohio State Buckeyes playing Columbus. And if you walk in wearing those same colors on football game day, you might get beat up in the parking lot.
Yeah. It probably wouldn't go well.
Once they found out I was wearing a Preds jersey, they were like, you're cool, man. Like, we don't even care. We don't even care about you.
That's awesome.
But it was a great arena. It was fun. And I do highly recommend going to a hockey game there.
I've been to 3 now, so 3 different arenas. So, yeah, it's cool. So far, Bridgestone's my favorite, obviously, but
shocker.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
So you get to Boston.
No, I mean, we did. It's nice. It's super nice, but man, it is crowded. It's crowded. Everybody was cool. I mean, we were all there to see Boston, but and then the other one I went to was where the Capitals play, Capital One Arena.
Oh, okay.
I didn't really like it. I didn't really care for that one all that much. It's kind of
so next season I plan on knocking out Carolina. Going to Raleigh and seeing a Carolina game, and then I still haven't been to St. Louis either. So those are the 2 I'm going to try to knock out next year.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's on my agenda. Mike Twitter says podcast meetup in Columbus, Ohio next season. I'm down. We definitely need to have a podcast meetup. We've been saying we're going to be doing it for a while.
We never do.
And it's really hard to find because all 3 of us have different schedules. All of our listeners have different busy schedules, and we have to adhere to an NHL schedule. And when you're talking about East Coast teams, you get one day out of the calendar to make that game because the Preds only play in Columbus once per year. So it makes it tough. But we need to have a podcast meetup, Mike Twitter. You're absolutely right. We're going to try to work on it. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So we'll try to figure that out for next season for sure. All right, guys. With that said, let's look back at Preds playoff history. First of all, Rich, I know that you've said in the past that you didn't start really watching the team until what, 2000?
It would have been the year they lost to Dallas.
Ugh.
Yeah. That
so
was,
you started
halfway through the season. That's when I started watching, and through the playoffs, and it's when they lost to Dallas. Yeah.
So you literally started watching the Predators when the train was starting to go off the track.
Go down the hill. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it hasn't been pretty since, but
well, I can promise you, and I'll defend you on this. No, when the Preds do win a Stanley Cup and you're all over social media celebrating it, if anyone tries to call you a bandwagoner, I will defend you 100%. Because you started cheering for them when the team started going downhill. So I commend you for that, good sir.
Yep.
Kyle, when did you start really getting into the Preds and following them? And I
think I watched some of that Dallas series.
Oh, actually. My gosh, guys. Both of you guys are killing
you started at the same time.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
I think I ended up watching some of that Dallas series, and it just –
I think that's why I've lost all my hair more so than – I think I've caught up to Rich for that reason.
Yeah,
because I've been following this team since. So I will say, when they were an expansion team, I mean, I was 10 years old to give you my age. So yeah, I wasn't like watching them closely the expansion season, but I do remember when they went to the playoffs for the first time, and that was kind of like when I first started watching hockey. And when they played the Red Wings, the Dynasty Red Wings, and they lost in 6 games or whatever. And so I've kind of I followed them from afar since then. And then I really, really started taking a vested interest in them. Really kind of when I think I think kind of my launching point when I really started getting into the Predators was when Jordan Tutu joined the team. That was when I really became like diehard. Yeah. Like I want to watch every game they play, and I want to like really learn how hockey really works and stuff. And I mean, that was like the blue collar days of the Nashville Predators. The blue collar day. I mean, they didn't have any superstars really. They had Paul Kariya. That was like their first big superstar that they signed. Yep. But those were the days when they started building the team. And I know David Poile has so many haters, but you have to back up for a second and look at what he did. Look at what he built this franchise from. And yes, he never won a Stanley Cup, and he deserves criticism for that. But the team made the playoffs 15 out of 24 seasons of existence.
Pretty strong.
I mean, and coming back to the early expansion days, it's not like it is now with the expansion draft and stuff.
Yeah.
They made the playoffs after their first 5 seasons.
Yeah.
That was pretty unheard of at those times for an expansion team to make the playoffs that quick. I would say the only other team that kind of broke that mold was the early days of the Tampa Bay Lightning. They won a Stanley Cup in the early 2000s, and they were an expansion team in the early 90s. So they won a cup relatively quick. But other than that, you've got a lot of expansion teams that still haven't won a cup. The Minnesota Wild have never won a Stanley Cup. Columbus Blue Jackets haven't won a Stanley Cup. The San Jose Sharks have never won a Stanley Cup. So it's a hard trophy to win, everybody. That's all I'm trying to say.
The hardest. It's definitely the hardest one for sure. And now, like expansion teams, you know, if you don't make it your first or second year, you know, everybody's freaking out. So,
yep.
Absolutely. All right, so I've got some of my most memorable playoff performances in Preds history. Individual performances. Just one game. I'm not talking about the whole playoffs or anything like that. Just that one game. Some of my most personal memories. My first one, I'm going to go to the most obvious for me. It's the one that I remember the most. And it is the triple overtime game in 2016. Who remember? You guys weren't watching the team yet, but I can tell you guys, and I know a lot of Preds fans remember this. Triple overtime. And it was over halfway through the third overtime, guys, against the San Jose Sharks, a team that completely owned the Predators in their early years of making the playoffs.
Yep.
I mean, this team was the thorn in the side of this franchise in terms of making it past the first round. And so this, in 2016, they were in the second round, heavy to underdogs, as that was the norm. If you're in the Predators and you're in the playoffs, you're going to be the underdog in every series. And they make it to a triple overtime in Game 4, and Mike Fisher scores the game winner. Triple overtime. So there it is. That was one of the most memorable games I can ever remember. We're going to list some other ones here that are also maybe more memorable. Also, if you're watching live on YouTube, jump in. Give us your most memorable moments in Preds playoff history. But Mike Fisher finally scores the game winner. I remember watching this game at my house with my roommate, who was not a hockey fan. He was an MMA guy. So he was an MMA fighter. And he liked hockey. He loved the violence of the sport, but he didn't really understand the rules. He didn't know. He couldn't name one player.
Yeah.
But me and him are watching this game late into the night. I'm talking like past midnight.
Oh, yeah.
Just watching this game. And my buddy, who knows nothing about hockey, is getting into it. Like, he is into it. He's getting excited. He's asking me all these questions. Why did this happen? Why did they call a penalty on this? Why did the guy fire the puck down and the whistle blew? He's asking me all, and I'm trying to explain it to him on the fly. And this game keeps going. It goes through the first overtime. It goes through the second overtime. And he keeps asking me, when is this game going to end? And I'm like, when the next goal is scored is when this game's going to end. Yep. And this guy, I'm watching this guy become a hockey fan before my eyes. He knew nothing about hockey, and he became a hockey fan. Finally, Mike Fisher scores the game winner. One of the most memorable games in Preds history.
Mr. Underwood scores the game winner.
Mr. Underwood.
So there you have it. That's my most memorable right there. What do you guys think? Do you think Mike Fisher should be considered one of the great Predators of all time? Do you think that's fair?
I think you kind of have to.
I mean, let's take out Carrie Underwood. It has nothing to do with Carrie Underwood.
Nothing to do with her.
No,
yeah, I mean,
that has nothing to do with her.
Everybody loves him, and he played well. So, I mean, yeah, I think he's probably one of the greats. Is he Pecorino?
He was also one of the better outside players that the Predators ever picked up. Like, he wasn't homegrown.
Mm-hmm.
He had already established a really great NHL career with the Ottawa Senators. And then he came to Nashville. So I think that he definitely deserves to be in a lore of Predators history for sure.
They're going to give him a statue?
No statue for Mike Fisher. You need to stop.
I bet they give one to Roman Josi, though.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Here's an easy one, guys. How about let's go to 2017. I mean, if you're talking about all-time great performances in Preds history, let's go to 2017. And when the Preds took down the Evil Empire. Anyone remember that image? Look at all that red in the background. That just makes me sick.
Chad Mitten, noted Blackhawks hater.
So that was when we ended the Blackhawks right there. I don't think they've recovered. We're 6 years later, and they still have not recovered from that.
No.
That was the death of hope right there.
That was.
I mean, until the Blackhawks actually do something relevant in this league, we own them.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah, I mean, really.
I mean, yeah, they got the Stanley Cups. I'll give them that. They've been around a hell of a lot longer.
They should have more.
I always throw that back at the Blackhawks fans when they chirp about Stanley Cups. I'm like, okay, how long have you been around?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But
they got like 3. It's 3, isn't it? 5.
We essentially ended you guys. I mean, like, like you guys haven't recovered. It's been 6 years now. How long do you need for a rebuild, for crying out loud?
With how long they've been around, they should have more cups than they do for sure.
Oh yeah.
So this particular image really spotlights Pecorino. And the reason why I'm including this image is because Pecorino shut out the Blackhawks in games 1 and 2 of that series. 59 saves in games 1 and 2 on the road against what was at that time still a dynasty.
Pecs.
You can't pick a bigger underdog in the first round than the Predators were in that series. First of all, those road unis are sick for the Predators. I wish they'd go back to those.
Mm-hmm.
You see Pekka stretching out. You see my boy Colton Sissons stick checking. You see our long-lost Ryan Ellis in the image there. That was... So the reason why I'm really spotlighting this is because of game 2 in that series, guys. So game 1, the Predators won the game 1-0. Victor Arvidsson scored a goal in like the first minute, I think, of the game. It was like a quick goal. I remember where I was. I was at a sports bar watching it. There was Blackhawks fans everywhere. And the Predator and Victor Arvidsson scored like this. It was kind of a fluke goal in a way. And we were up 1-0. And I remember all the Blackhawks fans laughing, thinking, oh, okay. Like, yeah, you get your goal. Congratulations. And the Predators won that game 1-0. Game 2, I never felt more nervous going into a game as a fan because I just felt like the Blackhawks were going to unleash their anger and their rage on the underdog Predators and just run us out of the building. It was game 2. It was like, okay, you stole game 1. It was a fluke. We're going to really punish you in game 2. And the Predators won that game 5-0 to go 2-0 on the road. And the Blackhawks playoff slogan that year was quote unquote 1 goal.
Yeah.
And they couldn't even score 1.
We couldn't even score 1.
Couldn't even score 1.
That's amazing.
That was a horrible play. That's probably the worst playoff slogan of all time. 1 goal. And he didn't even score 1.
That dude got fired. Whoever came up with that. They're like, you're fired.
Yeah. So that's one of my best playoff performances all time. Like, I mean, like, and I think UC Saros is capable of doing something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yep. Absolutely.
That's why whenever we think about the Predators in the playoffs, we think, oh, UC Saros could do something like that.
Absolutely.
So let's move on here with another good one.
I think Kyle's internet dropped.
Those damn internets.
I know, right? The interwebs.
All right. Oh, where's Johnny when we need him, first of all?
Oh, no.
Johnny is the press
He's right up his alley.
Okay, so let's go back. I'm about to share it on the screen. Let's go back to a really forgotten Nashville Predator. First of all, I'm going to ask you. Oh, so I can't even do a press trivia with you because you already read it? You already cheated?
I saw it in your article. I was like, who is that?
So, second round pick from 2007 for any hints. If you want to guess right now, if you're listening live, or if you're listening the next day, maybe before we share this, you can guess along. Test your Preds historian fandom. Who scored 2 goals in the game-clinching series winner that won the first playoff series for the Predators? 2011, everybody.
Mike Twitter said Freddie Gaudreau.
It is this man right here. Nick Spalling.
Yeah.
Nick Spalling.
How much is that jersey worth?
He scored 2 goals to beat the Anaheim Ducks in that game in 2011. Here's a really cool nugget here, Rich. I know you like good nuggets here.
Yep.
So, Nick Spalling would only score 3 goals in his NHL playoff career. 2 of them came in this game.
That's awesome.
The other playoff goal he scored was with the Pittsburgh Penguins later in his career.
And there you go.
So I gotta pick this one. I gotta pick this one as one of my most memorable playoff moments. One, because it was the first playoff series win for this franchise, and two, because it came from the most unlikely hero.
There you go. Yeah, that's a deep cut trivia question right there.
Johnny would get it.
Oh, I bet he would. He probably knew it. He's probably like, oh, that's easy.
But that was pretty cool. First playoff series win. After 5 tries, they finally made it past the first round. And that was when they ran into the San Jose Sharks every year.
Yep.
Which is why, even to this day, longtime Preds fans, if you're a new Preds fan, you probably don't understand why the old school Preds fans don't like the San Jose Sharks. It's because of that. Because the early years of making the playoffs, the Preds could not get past the San Jose Sharks.
Yep.
Joe Thornton was on those San Jose Sharks teams.
Yeah.
Joe Thornton was like in his mid-20s at that point.
Yeah.
Now he looks like he's Noah's Ark.
Yeah, and he's only like 39 or 40.
Joe Pavelski. Joe Pavelski was a young Joe Pavelski was on those San Jose Sharks team. Patrick Marleau scored 7 goals in a series against the Nashville Predators. Patrick Marleau, future Hall of Famer.
San Jose used to be
and they've still never won a Stanley Cup either.
Still never won.
And now they're probably the worst team in the league. If you make me pick who is the worst team in the league right now, I would have to say it's the San Jose Sharks, unfortunately. But those were some good years. All right, here is my final, most memorable.
This is a good one.
I mean, guys, come on. I had to save the best.
The best one, probably.
I had to save the best for last year. Let me find it. Oh, no. I'm going to have to find it. Let me pull it up.
Okay. It's a good one.
Before I get to that, Rich, before I get to it, I got it right here. How do you feel about John Hines' playoff record with the Preds? Do you think it's on him, or do you think that a lot of the outside factors should be taken into effect?
I think a lot of outside factors should be. I mean, this is his first really full season. This was his first full season, pretty much. COVID happened. All the majority of the money spent on the team was injured. I mean, this season. I give him props. I don't know if he's going to be coach next year, but I still give him props. I don't care.
I mean, his playoff record is 3-11. That's the issue here.
It's not great
with the Predators. I mean, the one I can't forget about is in that COVID bubble against the Coyotes.
Yeah, they should have.
Which a lot of people argue that shouldn't even count as the playoffs.
No, it does on paper.
Paper, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a weird time, and I don't know. I think he was trying to turn the team into another direction, and some of the guys just weren't fitting into the direction of the team, and they just, I don't know, it just didn't work out. But it seems like the team has changed over the years since he's been there. Like, they were fast, and then they were hard hitting, and then they went back to trying to be fast, and I don't know. It just seems like you need to pick a path and stick with it. But
all right, so here it is. Here's the GOAT of all playoff moments in Preds history.
This is it. The Hattie.
There you have it. Colton Sisson's hat trick against the Anaheim Ducks in Game 6 at home, 2017. I remember exactly where I was watching that game. I was at Fleet Street Pub in Printer's Alley in downtown Nashville. A lot of our Nashville listeners know all about Fleet Street Pub. It is a British underground pub. You feel like you're in a real British authentic pub. Like, it's like one of the best ever. And we were watching that game. I was watching that game with some friends. We were locked in. And Colton Sissons the whole team was heroic. It wasn't just Colton Sissons, but Colton Sissons had a hat trick in this game. The way this game unfolded, for people who may have forgotten, the Predators jumped out 2-0 in the game in the first period. Sissons had one of those goals. And then, as you would expect, the Ducks made a furious comeback. In the third period, they scored 2 goals in a span of 4 minutes to tie the game. And you're thinking, in that moment, as a Predators fan, we do not want to go back to Anaheim for a Game 7.
No.
I felt like it would be over if we went back to Anaheim for Game 7. Like, that was not an option that was on the table for me. I think the Predators would have lost if it went back to Anaheim. And Colton Sissons scores. You can look it up on YouTube. All you got to do is type in Colton Sissons game winner Ducks, it'll pop right up.
Don't type in Sissons scored though. Don't type that in. You'll get a different result.
I'll get to that in a second.
You won't like that.
It was one of the most beautiful playoff goals in franchise history for the Predators. Yep. And I would be very, very wrong to not bring up who set him up for that goal. It was Calle Jarnkrok.
Oh, I miss him.
A beautiful setup pass across the slot for a waiting stick that was Colton Sissons. And that's what you see in that image right there to beat the Ducks. And the Ducks were such a hated team for the Preds fan base. I mean, Ryan Kessler, Ryan Getzlaf, Corey Perry. That team, that's where the Corey Perry image was born, where he's sinking his head into the bench.
Mm-hmm.
That is the peak of Nashville Predators history right there.
Yeah.
That goal by Colton Sissons. And even though he never really evolved into a big-time goal scorer, I am the biggest Colton Sissons stan you will find around here.
Me too.
Everyone knows that.
Oh, me too. I think it was Calle Jarnkrok when he was there, and now he's replaced Calle. So,
yeah. Yep. So he has still become a really important part of this team. He still is to this day. He played valuable minutes down the stretch of this season. So, and he's going to be a big part of next season too.
Mm-hmm.
So, at a very cheap price. I know he signed a very, very long-term deal, like he signed for a long time.
Until he'll be a free agent in the 26-27 season.
But he's below a $3 million per year player.
Yep. 2.86. Yeah, that's a value. That's a value
for what he does. Yeah. For what you get, it's total value.
Absolutely.
I think we forget about that. So
one of my favorites.
I think you have to make that your top individual playoff performances in Preds playoff history is Colton Sissons getting the hat trick. And then you brought up Sissons, the hashtag Sissons scored. That was in Game 6 against the Pittsburgh Penguins, the following series at home in a very tightly knit, close game. Mm-hmm. The Penguins ended up scoring the game-winning goal like with a minute left on a fluky puck that bounced off the backboards and fooled Pecorine. Patrick Hornqvist scored the goal, former Predator. Ugh. It can't be any more of a heartbreak for a Predators fan. Another instance in Predators history where I remember exactly where I was. But Colton Sissons scored, and who knows what would have happened if it would have went to Game 7.
Yeah. The Predators and the Penguins are kind of intertwined. It's like both of them missed the playoffs this year. Both of them are rebuilding a little bit. It's crazy.
The great Calle. We forget about Calle Jarnkrok a little bit, I feel like.
He is actually playing really well in Toronto. I will give him props. He's like
made a name for himself.
He's doing the exact same thing he did in Nashville.
Why don't we get Calle Jarnkrok daily updates like we do Ellie Tolvanen daily updates?
I don't know.
Justin Gambino says Fleet Street is amazing. Yes. Anyone going to Nashville, you got to check out Fleet Street Pub in Printers Alley. Such an awesome place.
Now, I went
so
to
authentic.
The pub in the Gulch, but that's a chain. That's probably not the same
that's a chain. No, Fleet Street Pub's way better.
Yeah.
Mike Twitter, first thing that comes to mind for me is the 2020 bubble, which I know many don't count our appearance as a playoff run, but Forsberg tied a game in final seconds, but then we lost in overtime. I forgot about that. Forsberg did tie it in the final seconds.
Yep.
That hurt.
I remember another memorable one was when they played Carolina in the first round. How they just kept coming back and winning.
Oh, are you talking about Matt Duchene's game winner in overtime?
Well, didn't Luke Cunnin had one in one of those games, I believe. Remember Luke Cunnin
had a good series.
Yeah, he had to hit the game winner and then jumped into the glass, like dove, and they were all happy.
Oh, yeah. But I know Matthew Shane scored the game winner, I want to say, in game 4.
Okay.
To tie the series.
Yeah. I think it that was a good series. Everybody thought that Carolina would just walk all over them, and they did not. So
let's see.
I can't remember.
It's always fun going back to history. Let's see. I know that Matt Duchene definitely scored a game winner against the Hurricanes that year in the playoffs, and it tied the series. It tied the series at 2-2.
Okay. These COVID years, man, they just it's like you can't remember what.
The Predators won both games at home in double overtime.
Yes, that's what it was. Yep.
And I think it was all right, so me and you were all right. So game 4 was Luke Cunning's game winner.
Okay.
And I think it was game 3 that Matt Duchene won it in double overtime.
Okay. Yeah.
There you have it.
Right. Yeah, it was the 2021 season.
Yep. You had game winners from Matt Duchene and Luke Cunning in double overtime in games 3 and 4.
Yep.
I remember that series. I remember coming out of that series as a fan, not feeling upset that they lost necessarily. I was upset at the Hurricanes social media.
Oh my gosh, me too.
They were I could not deal with them.
I couldn't either.
Awful.
It was horrible. It's like sore winners.
I mean, it wasn't even about the fact that the Hurricanes knocked them out. I mean, I expected that. They were the better team. But that was I do remember that series. That was Matt Duchene stepped up though. That was the series when the Matt Duchene sitting on the bench by himself was born.
Yes, that's
remember
right.
Those images?
I do, yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's like
he would just sit on the bench by himself before a game. He looked like he was just like a warrior about to go to battle.
Yep.
He was getting so much criticism at that time too.
Mm-hmm. So, that was good. That was fun.
A lot of memorable playoff moments. If you got any, please share it with us if you're watching live right now, or if you're listening the following day, hit us up on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook at Catfish Ice. We would love to hear some of your most memorable playoff moments in Predators history.
Absolutely.
Let's wrap up episode 182. Looking at the free agency market, I'm going to share a little spot on the screen of just the top free agents right now that are going into the offseason. And we are going to just look at some of them and think it's pretty small right there. But it's a list from Cap Friendly there. Just the top free agents. First of all, Rich, I got to ask you, if the Predators are going to shop for a free agent, what position do you think we should be even looking at?
A winger who can score a lot.
That's fair. I think that's a fair assessment.
And that's what everybody wants, right? And I don't know. I'm not seeing much on the good old free agent market there.
You're not seeing much that are realistic.
That's true.
So what I'm seeing in this free agency market for 2023 is a lot of aging free agents.
You're right about that. I noticed that too.
Expensive, risky free agents that are over the age of 30 is what I'm seeing. And that scares me. It's hockey. So obviously you're not old if you're over 30, but in hockey terms, if you're over 30, you're getting kind of old.
You're on the downslide, unfortunately.
Yes. And so that scares me, especially for a team like the Predators. That scares me a little bit. So you're looking at you see Patrick Kane, he's going to be a free agent. The Rangers were clearly all in. That's why they went and got Patrick Kane. We'll see if they retain him through the offseason, but they're clearly all in to win a cup this year. That's why they went out and got Patrick Kane.
Yep.
Vladimir Tarasenko also went to the Rangers.
No.
I don't think it's clear cut that he stays with the Rangers. He could be a rental.
Could be. Yeah.
So I could see Tarasenko on the move. Ryan O'Reilly, another player that's over 30. He's playing for Toronto right now. He'll be a free agent. I don't think the Predators are in the market for centers. They have plenty of centers to look at. If they're trying to get anybody, they're looking for a winger, like Rich just said. Going down the list, you got Jamie Van Riemsdyk. No, thank you. No, thank you. Thanks, but no thanks.
No
Alex DeBrincat.
Now that's
going to.
I like that.
He's going to get a lot. He might be one of the most prized free agents this summer.
I think you might be right.
But here's the deal. He has not been as good as advertised for the Senators. He is not.
That's
but
true.
He's still so young and he's still so talented.
Mm-hmm.
And his ceiling is so high. He's going to get a lot of looks.
Mike Twitter said, give me Matt Dumba, Jesper Bratt.
Oh, I like that.
Good.
Wait a minute. Jesper Bratt. Yes.
Bratt as well.
Yes, that's what I'm all about.
I'll take that. Yep. I'll be all right with that.
He is out of this entire list, Jesper Bratt is the one that I think the Devils keep him, though.
Yeah, probably. I don't know how I would feel about
I don't
Matt
think they're
Dumba.
going to let him go. They're not going to let him go.
I
Wait,
really
Mike Twitter, you're up
Dumba.
in those Mike Twitter's up in those parts with the New Jersey Devils. He lives in that part of town.
Oh,
so
yeah, right. He's like
Mike
the
Twitter,
inside
if you
man.
can drop it Mike Twitter, if you can drop it in the comments, tell us I think the Devils are going to keep him.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to lose him. Personally.
Yeah.
He says his cousin is a Devils fan, so yeah.
Loves.
Other guys I'm looking at here, just on the quick. I mean, what about Patrick Hornfist, guys? Let's just have a Preds reunion. We'll bring back Patrick Hornfist. Age 36 and all, we'll bring him back. Right,
there are a lot of older players. That's crazy.
If you go further and further down the list, Matt Dumba. I don't know if we need a defenseman, though. That's the problem. I don't think we're really in a position.
If you wanted
got Timo Meyer is going to be a free agent. He's 26. He's a left wing, right wing.
Yeah.
You got to spend some money to get a player like him, though.
I think they're going to
spend a lot of money.
Jersey's going to probably offer him quite a bit, I would say.
Okay, I got a good one here. If we're really going to dig deep here and look at these free agents, JT Compher for the Colorado Avalanche.
Oh, yeah, that would be good.
He is Hey, JT Compher is a player. He's 28. He is a 52-point scorer. I'm not saying he would be a 50-plus point scorer for the Preds because the Avalanche obviously have way more playmakers around him to pile up those points. But he is a player that I'm not so sure the Avalanche will be able to keep him.
Yeah.
JT Compher, keep him on your radar, everybody. If you're looking at low key free agents out there that aren't going to break the bank, JT Compher.
I would
He's
definitely
versatile.
be all right with that.
He can play center. He can play right wing. He's only 28. He's not a completely recycled veteran. And I know we are all on this youth movement, guys, but that doesn't mean we can't dabble in a couple veterans here and there.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
I really hope that, speaking of veterans, I hope that Tyson Berry can hang around. I like him. He's a good veteran. But yeah, you can definitely. It doesn't have to be all young guys.
No, it doesn't. So I think that Barry Trotz is probably going to add one free agent over the offseason. One. And it's going to be a very low-key move. But I do think he's going to add somebody. I think he's going to put his stamp on this offseason and add somebody. He's got some cap room. He doesn't have a ton, but he has some cap room. So we'll have to wait. He's got money to spend. He's got money to spend. Even when he re-signs Glass and Carrier, which we fully expect he'll do, there's going to be money to be spent for at least one free agent.
So you don't think it'll be like a big name person? It'll be like a midpoint
kind
of
the guys
player.
we just named.
Yeah,
I mean a JT Comfer or a Jesper Bratt or I mean if he wants to, Trotz might not want to do that. He might be totally fine with going forward with what he already has, and that'll be totally fine.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, he already said in his press conference last week, one of the prevailing things he said that stuck out to me was fast. I want to get faster.
You have to. Everybody's fast, it feels like.
He wants to blend this roster with youth and veterans. We'll see, man. We'll see. I don't know. I think he's going to add one. I don't think he's going to be totally like heavy on it and make all these crazy waves, but I think he's going to make a mid-level free agency signing that will be in the starting lineup. I think Igor Afanasyev probably starts in Milwaukee next year.
I agree.
He's still very much a heavy part of the future, but I think he starts back in Milwaukee. Luke Evangelista is a player that I would love. I think he should start, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with him.
Yeah.
Kiefer Sherwood, Michael McCarron, those are all your bubble players. And that we'll have to wait and see what kind of free agency signings happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and like if a Luke Evangelista does start, how many minutes are you going to give him? It'll be on the fourth line, third line probably. So is he the type of player that's okay with that and doesn't, don't want to ruin his development or anything? So I don't know.
Once Philip Forsberg is back, once Matt Duchene is back, once Ryan Johansson is back, you've already got Yusuf Parson. He is definitely going to be in the starting lineup next year. Tommy Novak's going to be in the starting lineup. Cody Glass will be in the starting lineup.
Yep.
It's Luke Evangelista. It's Igor Afanasyev. Those are two guys you really have to figure out where they're going to be, where they start off at. Yep. That all hinges on what happens in free agency, of course. Yep. So we'll have to wait and see what Barry Trotz – we'll have to see if he has the long game in mind or if he wants to get right back into playoff contention right away.
We'll see. Hopefully it'll make some good moves.
We will be here for it. We are going to be here all off season. We'll have another episode next week for everyone. We hope y'all are all enjoying the Stanley Cup playoffs as we are, even though the Nashville Predators are not in it. It's okay. It's okay to sit on the sidelines for 1 year. We'll be back next year. Until then, everybody, we will see you next week for a brand new episode. This has been Catfish on Ice Podcast, presented by DraftKings, promo code THPN, and part of the Hockey Podcast Network with Chad Minton, Rich Howe, and Kyle Perkins. We'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Have a good one.